We've been talking about these things for a long time, a lot of us. And what we have to do is institute some strategies to get them accepted on a wider level, on a community level, on a government level, on a university level, which is particularly germane to all of us, but also, I think, on the electorate level. In our own work, we've discovered that university regulations, government regulations about establishing expectations with students, that students have to know where they're going, those kind of regulations are actually one of the major inhibitors of creativity.
Some of the sort of issues and challenges that came from our group are the notion of imagination as being a fundamental human activity or intelligence, and importantly to recognise this as being just as important as the traditional intelligence of literacy and numeracy.
We use time pressure in a positive way because in advertising we fuse creativity, strategy, time pressure, because you've always got time pressure and working to somebody else's brief, and then you've got to be able to sell it.
It's real, it's contextualised, and the students own it, and it is life-changing for students.
The engineers are talking to me about how should we configure teaching spaces in the universities now. Should we revisit the idea that this is a tutorial space and this is a seminar space? The timetable people from the hierarchy are talking to me about how do we fit timetabling into managing the property and supporting teaching.
And they come to me with skills base in photomedia, in fine art photography and moving image and video. But they, of course, all come at, as we've all noticed, at various levels of bravery, of confidence, from middle-class backgrounds, from working-class backgrounds. They're rich kids, they're poor kids. They're people with a lot of world experience. They're people with very little. They have all different emotional life spaces. And their path is going to be their own in some respects. They're all very individual. And they need to get used to that, but they also need to understand that they are part of the whole social politic. We are in the business of making or helping facilitate people to become lean, mean, ethical, provoking machines. And when I say machines, and when I say lean, I mean this. They have to be lean enough that they can turn on a sixpence, you know, old world, or a 10 cents, because that's the game. And if they're working with stills now with a decal edge, you can bet your boots they'll be making videos next month, yes? So the kinds of skills and the expectations of what is out there needs to change. They need to be lean and resourceful because no one is going to throw money at you as a practitioner. They need to be mean about themselves because they need to criticise deeply everything that they make. They need to reflect on it, and they need to take serious risks. Because if you really want to survive at an elite level and contribute to your culture, you need to take risks. Making pictures and showing them in a gallery, that's one thing. Contributing to your culture and being acquired by public collections is a whole other set of circumstances. I make no hierarchy there, but they are very different things. They need to be ethical because they need to have the kinds of values that can sustain a contribution to either a global, a world, or the Australian cultural sort of context. A light bulb just doesn't come on without the generation of electricity and all that's behind it. It doesn't happen without the glass casing and all the things that are involved inside it. And it doesn't come on without the will to switch the switch. So there's a real process that comes on with the light bulb, and it doesn't happen just by itself.
So what's the block? What is a scientist? A scientist is a prod user. They generate knowledge and they use it and they pass it on. A scientist, as Richard Florida and everybody else, the gurus will tell you, that's the highest elite level of creative worker. You scientists, we are, we're creative capacity builders and everything else. So if you think about it, if you're a scientist and you can recognise the fact you're a creative worker, maybe that's how you should be teaching it. And we're talking about having the confidence to deal with the ambiguity and super complexity. Make rapid shifts around paradigms.
Okay, you may have heard of something called the horseless carriage syndrome, and that relates to when the first cars were produced. They actually came with buggy whip holders on there. They didn't have any buggy whips, but they were produced with those. And another common example of the horseless carriage syndrome was that the first films were shot by a video camera in a fixed position from one of the rows filming the films in a theatre. And that reminds me very much of what's happening with some of the online lectures today. There's a fixed video filming these things. Now, I don't begrudge that kind of presentation. I think it's good as a supplement, it's good for a review, but I certainly wouldn't be filming myself for all my online lectures or blended learning. And so I think we need to, with these new environments, have new paradigms. So when it comes to that whole big picture about scaling up, my focus has not been so much on the students, but converting the staff.
I think one of the challenges that came out of the speakers today, and I think Ron did a fantastic job of identifying the different issues, is it can either be us doing all the work or it can be the students doing the work. And the idea about the producer is about trying to get the student doing as much of the work as possible. So I think in terms of some of the tools and techniques that were mentioned today, in the case where some people are doing the work themselves and in other cases where the students are doing it. We're very time poor, and if you're not going to kill yourself, I think try and get others to do as much work as possible.